Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business, share them with us so we can all learn together. As always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their ideal prospects. We use this method of about 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, endless social media posting, or any of the old, ineffective traditional marketing methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. The link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, our special guest is Michael Seitchik. He's the owner of Michael Seitchik, where he's providing consulting and coaching for individual development, team performance, and strategy execution for organizations. So, Michael, welcome to the show today. And I want to start off by asking you a question that I always love to start off with, which is this. If you were somehow able to go back in time to when you started your first business, but knowing what you know now, what would you do differently in the first 12 months?
Great question. It's hard because my business wasn't like suddenly I'm doing it. It was kind of a gradual evolution over time. Um, and to be honest, I might keep up with my past networks better,
Mm,
old clients, things like that, because um, I've always had my own LLC, but in between, I've been hired by consulting firms. Um, I've been hired by different places to be a senior officer. So I've lost touch with some of my old clients, and I wish I would have stayed in touch with them on a more regular basis.
mm. Yeah, it's definitely key. What do you do now that helps you stay in touch with clients and past clients that maybe you've changed that you didn't do in the early days?
Well, I do some of the typical stuff. Send them emails. How you doing? I'm on LinkedIn, so a number of them follow me on LinkedIn, um, and sometimes they just give me referrals. So,
Yeah.
so that's good. Or sometimes uh, out of the blue. Well, actually, I guess 3 weeks ago, someone I helped probably 40 years ago, suddenly out of the blue, just emailed me and said, "How you doing? I'll never forget what you did for me. I want to introduce you to somebody." So that's what happens. It's mainly through referrals
Yeah,
that I get business.
that's amazing. That's really, really cool. Well, Michael, as you've grown your business and begin to grow it and generate more leads and clients and growing it up that way, what's one of the things that you did to be able to generate more leads, but stay in a really relationship focused manner in the way you've done things instead of fall into that spam trap that a lot of people do when they're trying to grow their business?
Yeah, I really make sure that there's a good fit. Um, so to the consternation of some of my previous bosses and my wife, I actually turned down some business, which I think is not going to be valuable to me or to them.
Hmm.
Um, so I always in the beginning ask something to the effect of, "So what does good look like?" In other words, 6 months after I'm done and you've paid me, how would you know you're going to get your money's worth?
Hmm.
And sometimes they give me really good answers. They have really clear expectations. So if they have clear expectations, I go, great. I can, all right, you got the wrong guy, right? If they can't, I go, okay, something's off here. Is this a HR checklist or the board told them to do X and they're checking it off? Um, so I'm really picky about who I work with, and I try and figure out as best I can from the initial meeting whether they really want to know what's really going on that's either, getting in the way of their effectiveness as a leader, their team not hitting their targets, or their company not executing and meeting their growth or revenue targets. So I ask questions and I get a sense of, well, for example, let me give you a negative one. If I get the sense that the person is saying, well, can you fix them? Uh, I politely, I politely back out, right? Because a leader that assumes that they're the problem and they're not part of it, I don't mean that they're the whole problem, but
Yeah.
that they're part of it. There's no way I'm going to work with that person.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's great to be able to build a relationship, but also be able to ask those questions, deep dive a little bit more, and suss out whether that they are actually a good fit to be a client for you. Which I think a lot of businesses, they'll just take on any client. Uh, that, as you said, if the client's just not, or the prospective client just doesn't, they're not coachable, they're not willing to learn, they think it's everyone else's problem, then you just know straight away that's they're not a good fit for what you do. And I think that's a really good thing to have, and something that a lot of businesses probably benefit from implementing more of. I know I have. I turn away business when I don't feel like it's a good fit. So
Yeah,
I totally understand where you're coming from.
it may be hurt a little bit in the short run, but in the long run. So that's why I go mainly through referrals, because
Yeah.
people know me and they go, gee, Michael, this is a perfect fit for you, right? Um,
Yeah.
so that's what I do. I mean, I got spoiled early. I was in the manager of organizational development in this huge academic medical center, medical school, hospital, colleges of allied health, etc. And I was in HR, and HR reported to the CFO, and the CFO became CEO. And he asked me to be his right hand person because he knew me.
Mm, yeah.
And he said, Michael, I'm so powerful, I don't hear the truth. You're going to tell me what's really going on so I can make better decisions. That was an amazingly complimentary relationship. And that kind of spoiled me because I worked for a CEO who actually wanted to hear. Now, did he always agree with me? No, but he
Mm,
wanted my best shot. And that's what I do. I get people my best shot, and they can take it or leave it.
yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. That's that. I love hearing that. And I think that's a really key thing as well, that I think a lot of leaders, maybe they're not self-aware enough to realize that they need someone to be able to tell them the truth. And I think that's really powerful, not only from his side, but that you were able to be that person, which is really cool. Well, one of the things that I also like to discuss around all of this, talking about, that CEO going, hey, I may not always see everything. There's the challenges that we have in business, and it can be one of those things where we feel like we're the only ones that are going through a particular challenge, but it's not.
Right.
So I like to normalize talking about these things. So having said that, what's the number one biggest challenge that you've gone through so far in your business, and what's a lesson that you learned from that?
The business challenge in terms of growing my business, you mean, or
Any business challenge. It could be business growth, it'd be a client issue, could be a turn in the market. Just, it was the biggest thing. You go, oh, gosh, that hurt.
um, well, there was one client that hired me because they, I'm trying to figure out how to say it without revealing who it is. Um, they had a kind of an engineering mindset. There's nothing against engineers. So their product that they made had the best components in the world. Okay. And so they had a culture where the engineers are trying to impress the other engineers. And meanwhile, the customers were going, I don't need this. This isn't sexy. This isn't easy to use.
Mm,
So I was hired, supposedly, to help them become more innovative. So without going all into it, did some workshops around innovation and creativity, and then put them in small teams and gave them 6 months to come up with some innovative products. And they presented it to the C-suite. Now, on each of the teams, I had someone from the C-suite just to make sure it was realistic, it was within the bounds of what was acceptable. And the first team that presented, the CEO said, well, that's nice, but is this going to have a break even in 6 months? Well, the whole room went, oh. So I said, well, I think this is a good time for a coffee break. And I told one of the senior officers, take the CEO out of the room. And I talked to the group and said, listen, don't change what you're doing. And someone said, this was a setup. He was fooling us. He really doesn't want innovation.
Mm.
And so that's a pretty tricky, so that's why I try and suss out these things ahead of time.
Yeah.
I did not know. I did not go far enough to ask, what is the CEO like? Right.
Yeah.
And I should have. I didn't do
Yeah.
enough investigating. And on the one hand, they came up with wonderful, actually 3 years later, some of their innovations actually came out, right?
Wow.
But I've had my consulting services terminated when someone didn't like what I found, right? When they say, well, you think it's them, but here's the data, and they go, well, no, Michael, you're fired. So
Wow.
um, I've been fired more than once, um, because some people want to hear the truth about what's going on, or what I see as the truth. Let's put it that way. And
Mm.
some people just they really don't want to change.
Yeah.
They hire consultants who they think are going to confirm their own biases, or are not going to make
Yeah.
much change, or they're predictable. Centralize, decentralize. Yeah.
Mm.
And yet, I mean, you and probably your audience knows that for decades, the results are 70 to 90% of change initiatives and strategic initiatives fail to meet their targets. But people keep on doing the same stuff and using the
Yeah.
same consultants because they never
Yeah.
get to the root causes of what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Wow.
some want to hear it, and some don't.
Yeah. Wow. That's something else. Sounds like you hold up a mirror and sometimes people don't mind looking into it and other people are like, no thanks.
That's right.
Mirror away. You're gone.
Yeah, I didn't hire
Yeah.
you to. I didn't hire you to tell me that I'm the problem. Right.
Yeah. 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 Wow. Wow. What
But
that's
some
crazy.
people go. Some people will go. Wow, I didn't know that. That's so helpful.
Yeah.
But no one's told me that. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's something else that you're able to do. Well, over the next couple of years of the business, what's the goal? What would you like to achieve, Michael?
Well, I'm at the point in my career where I don't have to work. I just love doing it.
Hmm.
So I'm looking for some senior executives who know something's stuck, something isn't right, and they want to get to the bottom of it. Um, so either, something's not right in the way they're able to influence people, or their teams aren't hitting their targets, or the organization isn't hitting its revenue or growth goals. Um, and they really want to see what's going on underneath it all, the people that actually have to execute this stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Amazing. Amazing. That's really cool. Well, for people that are looking to find out a bit more about you and how they can get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, as long as you can spell my name, uh, my email is michael@michaelseitchik.com, and my website is michaelseitchik.com. It's pretty simple.
Amazing. For anyone listening that may not see his name right in front of you, it's Michael. So Michael, and last name is Seitchik for everyone. But I definitely recommend everyone checking out the different links that Michael just mentioned there. And Michael, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you taking the time out, sharing your experience, and just being really open. I can tell that that's what you do is be open with people. And so that's fantastic to share that information. Really, thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate it. And as a reminder to everyone listening, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their ideal prospects that doesn't rely on any of the old, ineffective traditional marketing methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. The link to that is in the show notes below. And until next episode, stay inspired.